Most buyers research their TV more than they do when they're buying the biggest purchase of their life, their new home. If you're buying a new home right now, there are a few things you should do before we get to the closing, and some even before you get under contract. And missing them could have you end up with a property that's got deed restrictions, permit problems, and other issues that can cost you thousands of dollars after we close. Hi, I'm attorney Kishore Kapoor, a residential real estate closing attorney here in the state of Connecticut. We post videos on a regular basis so you can be educated and have a smooth and hopefully stress-free closing. So here are my 5 tips of things I would do before I closed on a house. So step number 1, this is the tip before we get under contract. I would research the property. And actually I did. When we bought our house, I went to the land records and looked up who the owner of my property was, did a quick search on them, and got a great deal on my house because I was armed with knowledge that made me in a better position to negotiate. The other thing it did for me is it allowed me to look at the deed restrictions, which luckily for me, there weren't many. I actually have an old farm restriction that's no longer in service, but they were allowed to cross my property to get water. Had I not known that before, I may have been upset when I get to the title search phase of the closing and find that out, and that wasn't something I was agreeable to. So the first step you're going to do is you're going to go to the tax assessor in your town. Now, this is specific to Connecticut because each county in each state does things a little bit differently. Connecticut is a town-based system. So you're going to go to the town, you're going to look up the tax assessor, you're going to look for the GIS or the tax field card, and you're going to look up the property address. That's going to give you the owner's name. Then you're going to take the owner's name and you're going to go look for the town's land records. Most of the time it's on the town clerk's website, but sometimes if you just search whatever town plus land records, you can get access to the land records. And then you just search by last name. And that will pull up the person's deed. It'll pull up their mortgage. They'll pull up if they're in foreclosure or any other debts. It'll give you enough information so you can make a wise decision. Now, of course, that being said, you obviously have to research the property on Zillow or Realtor or just doing a Google search to find out about the property, right? Or your realtor's website. You're going to want to get as much information to make the best decision as you can possible, because you don't want to buy a property that has deed restrictions on it, right? I don't want to have a property that had an easement that allowed everybody to walk across my property whenever they wanted, right? And there are situations that happens. So the second thing I'm going to recommend you do, you're going to want to make sure you do a final walkthrough. If you'd like to learn more about final walkthrough, there's a video that I will link in the description below. But your final walkthrough is your last chance to look at the property to make sure there are no issues. There are movers in the house. What happens if a mover tripped and fell through a wall, right? Or the seller removed all the paintings from walls and there's now 150 holes in the walls that you don't want to have to deal with. Or the worst case, the seller didn't move out or didn't move out all their stuff. That actually happened to me. When we bought our house, the seller had left half the house full of their stuff. They didn't want it. They were going through a divorce. They said, we're done. Had I not walked through my house before I did my closing, I would have been stuck with that stuff and not being able to get a credit for it. We did negotiate a credit and we got our expense of removing all those items covered. The next thing you want to do is you want to check for open building permits. Right now, you got to keep in mind, we're working together on this as your attorney. The problem is I don't get to see the property. So you need to tell me, hey, I think there's a bathroom that's not permitted. Even if you don't know if it's true or not, you could always tell me, hey, look, there might be something that I have a question about. Can we do a search on this? We had a client we recommended it to, and unfortunately he chose not to, right? He had a bathroom in his basement that was illegally built. The basement flooded, the bathroom was damaged. When he went to go pull the permits to replace the bathroom, the town said, nope, you cannot have a bathroom down there. It's illegal. And he's like, well, the bathroom was already there. Well, yes, but it wasn't permitted. And even if we did do the permit search, I don't know that there was a bathroom in the basement unless somebody tells me, right? You got to tell me about the property so we can make sure when we're doing our searches, we can help you be protected. So number 4, and this is the most important, and I think this is the place people get into the most trouble. You need a team. And what do I mean by a team? You need a real estate agent, right? A real estate agent has a specific job of making sure that you are going through the property, they're helping you negotiate, they're the experts at that. You need a mortgage broker, right? Your realtor can't give you a mortgage. Your mortgage is how you buy your house. If you don't have enough money to buy the house in cash, you need a mortgage. You need an attorney, right? Connecticut requires an attorney to be able to close. Plain and simple. The realtor doesn't know the law. The mortgage broker doesn't know the law. They know a little bit about it, but they don't know all the laws. That's my job as a closing attorney. You're going to want an insurance agent because you're going to want to have to insure that property, right? You're going to want a home inspector because when they go to do the inspection, you need a professional that's going to tell you, hey, that door that looks like it's funny, it's actually fine. Now, if you don't have the team, what can you do? Well, each one of those professionals has a preferred group of people they work with. And I highly recommend you work with their preferred people, right? So if you go to the realtor and they recommend a mortgage broker, an attorney, a home inspector, and an insurance agent, there's a reason they recommend that group. They might work with them on a regular basis. And having a team that works together serves you better, right? Because if I have never worked with the realtor and the realtor and I don't get along, well then your transaction just became a lot tougher. Versus if the realtor and I are good friends and the realtor knows that 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, they could call me and get a hold of me and help resolve an issue, that saves you a huge headache. So having the right team in place is key. When I bought my house, I had my team that I normally use, right? We do lots of closings together, so I knew what everybody's role was every step of the way, and it made my wife and I have less stress through the transaction. Now, this is a special, number 5 is a special category. It's if you're buying a condo or a homeowners association, right? A complex where they have the homeowners, you're going to want to review those documents carefully. Yes, I look at them carefully, but I'm looking at them from a different point of view. So don't just rely on the attorney's point of view looking at it. I'm looking to make sure everything's legally sound, right? I'm not looking to see if you can have a dog or not because I don't care. I don't mean to sound bad like that, but I don't care if you have a dog, can have permission to have a dog or not because that's not my role. Right? I'm not looking to make sure that you have permission to have a dog. That's your job. And your realtor might be able to help you. I might be able to help you. But if we don't know what your parameters are, we can't. So you need to look at them. You need to communicate with your team as to what restrictions are there, right? You know, can you have a cat? Can you have 5 cats, right? If you have 5 cats, it's very important. Can you have a barbecue grill in your backyard, right? There's all different things. Can you hang a flag outside? Does it have to be the American flag? Can it be the state flag? Can it be a religious flag? Can it be some other spring-based or seasonal-based flag? That might be important to you. So you need to look over the closing document, the condo documents, to make sure everything is in line with what you want as the buyer. We can't tell you what it is. It's also, you want to look at the budget because if the numbers don't make sense to you or you don't feel comfortable with them, that affects you. I can't tell you what your risk tolerance is. If a condo association only has $1,000 in cash reserves, that might be fine to you. It might not be fine to me. That's personal preference. So it is extremely important that you look at the condo documents or the HOA documents or the co-op documents, whatever those documents are, that they tell you that you're living in a community where there's some deed restrictions. That is entirely unique to HOAs, which are homeowners associations, including condos and, you know, the traditional ones you see on, you know, TV shows. Those are restrictions where you see, you know, on TV shows where it's like the door can only be read. Well, there are restrictions like that that are allowed. So you need to make sure you review those. If you're looking to buy or sell a home and you want somebody to review details with you before they become problems, be sure to reach out to my office. We're happy to guide you through the process and make sure your interest in that property or your cash interest at the end of the day is properly protected and there's nothing that's going to sidetrack you. And as always, follow us so you don't end up one of my stories that I share on a regular basis. And so you can avoid making some costly mistakes and have a smooth and stress-free closing. And be sure to watch this video if you'd like to learn more.